I'm going to show you a map first. This is a map that will help understand what's going on in 2 Kings 17, our first reading today. Those of you who were with me last semester or who have read elsewhere in the Bible, in 586 BC, the kingdom of Judah, I think 586 is the right date, the kingdom of Judah is invaded by the Babylonians, and the residents of Jerusalem are taken into exile. This is in the time of Jeremiah. But about 150 years prior to that, in 721 BC, the kingdom of Israel is invaded. Remember, Israel was all one kingdom at one point, and it splits into two after the death of King Solomon. The northern kingdom is called the kingdom of Israel, also known as Samaria or Ephraim. The southern kingdom is the kingdom of Judah, with Jerusalem as its capital. The kingdom of Israel is what we're reading about. We're reading about what happened in 721 BC when the Assyrians, up there in the upper right of the map, the Assyrian Empire invades the kingdom of Israel, takes the Israelites captive as slaves, brings them to Assyria, spreads them all over eventually, and replaces them with their own settlers. And why did this happen? Well, we can read about it here in 2 Kings 17. All this took place because the Israelites had sinned against the Lord their God, who had brought them up out of Egypt from under the power of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. They worshipped other gods and followed the practices of the nations the Lord had driven out before them, as well as the practices that the kings of Israel had introduced. They forsook all the commands of the Lord their God and made for themselves two idols cast in the shape of calves and an Asherah pole. They bowed down to all the starry hosts, and they worshipped Baal, a false god. They sacrificed their sons and daughters in the fire. They sacrificed their own children, burning them to death in order to appease the false gods. They practiced divination and sought omens and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, arousing his anger. God allows them to be invaded and to be replaced by settlers from Assyria. To this day, when the author of 2 Kings is writing this, they persist in their former practices. They neither worship the Lord nor adhere to the decrees and regulations, the laws and commands that the Lord gave the descendants of Jacob, whom he named Israel. Now, he's talking about those who have replaced the Israelites. These are the settlers from Assyria and elsewhere that the Assyrians have moved in. It would be like if the United States were invaded and the people were removed and taken to Russia or China, and the Russians and the Chinese move in and settle America. It's kind of like what we did to the Native Americans. They're displaced, and the conquering people move in and occupy the conquered territory. It's these people that the author of 2 Kings is referring to. At the end, it's these people who still, like the Israelites before them, don't follow the commandments of the Lord. And at the very last paragraph there, they would not listen, however, to the prophets, but persisted in their former practices. Even while these people were worshiping the Lord, they were serving their idols. To this day, their children and grandchildren continue to do as their ancestors did. This is why, in Jesus' day, the Samaritans were suspect. Jesus comes into the southern kingdom, Jerusalem, Bethlehem. These are areas in the southern kingdom of Judea. The northern kingdom of Samaria/Ephraim has been populated by the time Jesus shows up for 721 years by people who originally were descended from the Assyrians or who were subject people that the Assyrians moved into the northern kingdom, and they don't completely practice the right religion, so that the Jews in Judea don't like the Samaritans in the northern kingdom of Samaria. This is why when Jesus in John chapter 4 is talking to the Samaritan woman by the well, the disciples show up and they're shocked that he would talk to a woman, first of all, much less a Samaritan woman. This is why in the parable of the Good Samaritan, it's even more pointed, because the Jewish priest and the Levite pass by. The good Jews passed by the fellow who's been mugged, and it's the Samaritan from the northern kingdom, who's not even really Jewish, who comes in and takes the victim and bathes him and pays his way at a hotel, pays for his food and so forth, because he loved his neighbor. Our neighbors are everyone, whether they're Christians or not. And so this explains why the Samaritans in the northern kingdom are held in suspicion by the Jews in the southern kingdom. One other thing I wanted to show you quickly, and then we'll be done, and that is how, if you look at the reading from Hosea, it's similar, because Hosea is being told by God, and I will visit upon her, and many of you might be saying, who's her? Her are the people of God, in the people of Israel. And I will visit upon her the days of the Baalim, the false gods, the Baals, into which she burned incense when she decked herself with her earrings and her jewels, and went after her lovers and forgot me, saith Jehovah. So remember, this in Hosea keeps up the theme of the people of God prostituting themselves out to false gods and not sticking with their spouse, the real one. For as he says, even here in Hosea, eventually he will claim them back, and I will betroth thee unto me forever. Yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness and in justice and in loving kindness and in mercies. I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know Jehovah or Yahweh or the Lord. So we see throughout the Old Testament and in the New, this is referred to, the infidelity of the people of God leads to their suffering. And yet he offers them warnings through the prophets. They don't listen to the prophets. And he offers them a chance to redeem themselves and become his people again. He will become, in fact, their spouse. He will betroth himself to them, which is why the book of Revelations ends with a wedding. When Jesus returns and the second coming happens, he comes as the bridegroom to betroth and embrace his bride, the church. So this all fits together. I hope that helped. Whew, I was going to say I need a drink, and I can't say I need a drink. I need a drink because my coffee cup is empty and my mouth is parched. That's the kind of drink I need. What did you think I was talking about?